let me, 1 second. Yeah, right. So what happens? You have two different kinds of anger. One is without cause. And that is the anger which I find the most interesting, because there's absolutely no reason to be angry, but we are angry. And so the song recognizes that anger is not easy to deal with, because it tends to take control of you and you want to go around beating up everyone. And he recognizes that that kind of anger is bad. And so he is struggling to deal with that. We have an interesting story in the Bible in Genesis where it talks about Cain and Abel. And you find that Cain gets angry with Abel. For what? Because Abel is successful, Cain is not. Abel did nothing to Cain. It's just that he was successful, God blessed him, Cain was not. So he gets angry and he kills him. I think that's kind of the craziest thing you do. Somebody studies well, comes first in class, and beats you by 2 marks. And so you get angry and stop talking to him, or something like that. The even crazier one was another story from the Bible. There was a general called Naaman. He had leprosy. He goes to a prophet and asks the prophet to heal him. The prophet doesn't even come outside. The prophet's servant comes and tells the general, go and have a bath in the river and you'll get healed. So he gets so angry. He expects the prophet to come and talk to him. He's a very senior general. He expects him to do something, but he doesn't do it. He gets angry and walks off. And people tell him, listen, are you crazy? If you at least do what he says. Now, if he had got angry and walked off, he would not have got healed. But because the people told him, what's the point of getting angry? Just go and do what he says. He goes and does it and he gets healed. So that's the problem with anger. We start doing things which are irrational. But one thing I need to tell you, because a lot of people tend to think anger is wrong. In fact, somebody sent me a link. I was looking at that link. The opening statement is, anger is a time when you stop trusting God or something like that. I think anger is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with anger and it's perfectly fine. It is how you deal with it decides whether it is right or wrong. And so anger is just an emotion. It's like hunger. You don't say hunger is wrong. Hunger, everyone would say is right. But then the way you deal with hunger decides whether it's right or wrong. You eat too much and then you're in trouble. Or you eat the wrong foods, you're in trouble. So there's nothing wrong with the emotion, but it needs to be handled rightly. If it's not handled rightly, it can harm us. So that is the thing we need to realize. Now, one of the things, medical findings have shown that there are both long-term and short-term health problems that are linked to unmanaged anger, like headaches. Some people have headaches, which basically comes because they keep getting angry. Some have digestive problems and even stomach aches. Some can't sleep at night, so because they are so consumed with the anger that they get insomnia. They have anxiety attacks, they go into depression, they get high blood pressure. And I am surprised to read they even get skin problems such as eczema. And of course, finally you get a heart attack and die. So these are the kind of health problems which anger can create. You can get a stroke. Now, to me, it's a bit crazy. The other thing which anger does, you take wrong decisions. When somebody gets angry, he takes wrong decisions. So that's a standard tactic in war. Make the other person angry so that he'll take a wrong decision and then you can deal with him. So we need to be careful that you don't take these kind of wrong decisions. But the funniest is, as I said, you cut off your own nose to harm the other person. So a wife gets angry with the husband, and so to hurt the husband, she kills herself. I think I've not seen anything so crazy as that, but that happens. It is something which happens. And finally, if that anger remains with you, that anger is finally going to kill you. It is going to harm your health. It's going to harm your emotional state. It's going to harm your ability to relate with people. And ultimately, it's going to kill you. Now, one of the things I recognize that the problem is you, it's not the other person. So the first step in dealing with anger is to recognize the problem is not the person who's making me angry. The problem is me. And since the problem is me, it can be dealt with. If the problem of the person who's making me angry, I can't deal with that because that is that person. But I can deal with myself. So it is your world and you need to change it. And you need to take control of it before it destroys you. So I said, isn't it crazy? Someone does something wrong to me and I kill myself. I said, it just doesn't make logical sense for me to do that. Now, what do I mean by that? Someone does something wrong, I get angry, and I nurture the anger within me, and finally that anger destroys me. I said, what's the point? If he has done something wrong, why am I punishing myself? It doesn't make any sense. And sometimes, as I said, the person has done no wrong to you, but you get angry with him because you wanted something, and then you harm yourself. I said, that makes absolutely no logical sense. The only logical sense which I can see in this is, why not just forgive and forget and live? Because if I'm going to carry that anger, I'm killing myself. So I just get rid of that anger and I can live. And it's entirely within my control whether I want to be angry or whether I don't want to be angry. And so that is a decision which I really need to be taking. So the problem is me, and I need to deal with me. That is ultimately the whole issue in anger management. Okay. Now, why do we get angry? Essentially, we get angry because we feel that someone has harmed us somehow. Now, if you look at the case of the general, I said, he felt his status and respect had not been observed. And so he gets angry. So he feels he had been kind of demeaned. Sometimes it is because you feel that some property which you should have got, you didn't get. Or you feel that you need to have a good reputation, and because somebody has spoiled your reputation, you get angry. So it is because somebody has deprived me of something which I want. That is where all the anger comes from. Now, if I do not have any attraction for material things or for things in this world, then people can't really harm me. So I think Gautam Buddha taught us that if you want to be happy, learn to not desire things from this world. So either if you don't desire anything from this world, you'll be happy, or you won't have sorrow. He didn't say happy, he said you won't have sorrow. And the same thing is true, that you cannot get angry if you're not running after worldly things. If you're given up on worldly things, you'll find that you don't get angry. And so you need to identify what are these things which have become so important for you that you feel that you need to have it. And so when you're deprived of it, you get angry. It could be something simple. It need not be anything very exotic. For instance, you may want quiet. You may want a time of silence, and the children are making a lot of noise. And then you find you get angry. Why? Because you're deprived of the silence which you're wanting. Now, if you say, okay, I don't want silence, I'm going to enjoy the noise, automatically your anger will not be there. So renunciation, I find, is one way in which we can make sure we don't keep getting angry. By identifying also what is it that I'm desiring and why is that driving me? And then why can't I change it? So I said, instead of desiring material things, if I desire relationships, if I desire friendships, if I desire strong team relationships with people, then you'll find that you get angry less and you're able to understand people more and you're able to work with them much better. So what is going to rule you? Is it going to be material things or worldly things, things in this world? Or is it going to be your relationships with people and how you relate with people? So that is a conscious decision which I can take myself, that I'm not going to run after the world, I'm going to run after people. And I'm going to see that I build conscious relationships with people. So the United Nations actually brings out annually a happiness index or a report on happiness. And the factors which they have put together for this happiness is essentially relationships and relationships of trust. That means if I'm living in an environment of trust where people trust me and I can trust people, I automatically become happy. But I'm living in an environment of distrust where people don't trust me and I don't trust them, then automatically I become unhappy. So they're looking at what is the quality of relationships within the country to kind of identify whether we are happy or not. And believe me, India comes very low on the happiness index. You can Google it and see. So I'm not advocating renunciation and becoming some kind of a sadhu. But what I'm advocating is that we value people more than things. I take a simple thing, and I used to get, my wife will say I still get, but I used to get very angry when driving because people drive all over the road. They don't observe any rules and they do all kinds of crazy things. And then I said, okay, now if I need to, what is it that I'm desiring? What I'm wanting is that people observe traffic rules. I said, okay, forget that. People are not going to observe traffic rules, so don't even want it. Don't even ask for it. Just forget about it. And then start driving, recognizing that people are not going to observe traffic rules. And see how you can value the other drivers and not expect them to fulfill your expectations. So I found that once you start changing your outlook and your perspective, you find that automatically the way in which you get angry starts reducing and you don't do crazy things. Otherwise, when you get angry when you're driving, you can end up having an accident, which is totally unnecessary. So basically what I find, short anger spells seem to be linked with emotional instability. That means I have some problem within me and that problem triggers anger spells within me. That means I'm hurting inside. I'm having some problem. And because of that, I can start getting angry. So sometimes it can be because you have a dispute with your boss or your superior. And then when you come home, you are carrying that anger and you're spilling over into anger against other people. So it is caused by stress. And you need to identify these stress points and be very clear in your mind, what is it that is causing distress? Because once you identify what is causing the stress, you realize you don't need to be angry with these people. The problem is elsewhere. And you can start learning to control your temper and your anger and not let the anger go out of control. One of the funny things which I found in my own experience was, I go to a shop or a restaurant and I expect to be served. And because if the service is not good, I get angry. Now I said, can we change that? I said, if we change that to, I go to a restaurant or a shop and I want to make the waiter's day or I want to make the salesman day so that they will feel encouraged. Then you'll find that automatically you don't get angry, even if they do silly things. So we need to be able to identify what is it that is making you angry and then take control of that and see how you can deal with it. Now, when you do get angry, the first thing to do is to take time to cool down. Before you do anything, cool down. So they had a good old rule which were taught in the younger days, count to 10. So when you get angry, count 1, 2, 3, 4 up till 10. Basically meaning first cool down, never do anything when you're angry. So for me, the best was when you get angry, just walk off. Go for a long walk or disappear somewhere, but don't do anything. Then you need to, once your anger has cooled off and you're back in control of yourself, you need to take a decision. Am I going to express to the person who caused that anger that he made me angry and whether you want any changes on that person's behavior, or are you going to suppress it? Sometimes if it is something minor, I prefer to suppress it rather than express it. If it is something serious, I want to express it. But believe me, most of the time I don't. I said, forget it, that person is happy. I don't want to unnecessarily create trouble. So if possible, if you are not able to get over your anger, then you need to talk to a neutral party or a counselor to deal with it. Because remember, the problem is you. The problem is not the other person. As long as you think the problem is the other person, you'll never try to deal with your anger and sort out that issue. But once you recognize the problem is you, then you can go to a counselor and ask the counselor to identify what is triggering that anger within you, which is making you do these things. And he can help you get, or he or she can help you get over the anger and be able to deal with that kind of situation. And of course, people also say that you start taking deep breaths, take 10 deep breaths and you'll cool off. Frankly, I've never done all this breathing exercises or even counting to 10. I just walk off. I find that's the easiest. So identify the trigger points and try and identify why these trigger points exist and deal with it or get counseling. Now, to some extent, I'm not sure whether we can identify easily why these trigger points exist. For instance, why do I expect to get service when I go into a shop or a restaurant? Now, why that came into me, I really don't know. My wife doesn't have that, but I have that. But if you're able to identify what is the childhood experience which has brought that about and deal with it, you could probably see that these trigger points are kind of dulled or blunted so that they don't trigger anger within you every time that happens. So these trigger points indicate uncontrolled desire or hurt in some area. So one of the things I tell people, anger shows where you're not in control of yourself and where something outside you is controlling you. Like if I want to come first in class, so that desire to come first in class is controlling me. I'm not controlling that. And so I'm no longer in control. And I said, that is not something which I recommend for people. You need to be in control. So I said, I need to see, why have I got this unreasonable desire that I must come first in class or I must do well? I said, that is not something which I should be getting angry over. But it may be something I want to do, but it should not be something which is driving me or controlling me. So I need to identify these trigger points and then see how I can either counsel myself or get somebody to counsel me so that I can get over those trigger points. The other thing I tell people, if you're getting angry at individuals, you need to develop listening skills. See, one of the things I've found, we get angry because we have not understood the other person. So I need to first get over my anger, cool off, then sit down and listen to the other person and understand why the other person is doing what a person is doing and why that behavior is there. It is only when you understand that person, you will find that you don't get angry. You can sympathize with the other person and understand the struggles that the other person is having. So you need to be able to develop these listening skills, especially with people whom you find you're continuously getting angry with. So try and think more about others than yourself. So I have found that when I stop thinking about myself and start thinking about others, automatically irritation and anger goes away. In fact, in my case, I don't normally get angry, but it is irritation. I tend to get irritated very easily. And so I need to, if I change my perspective to have concern for others, then your irritation levels will be less. And you will find that you won't be getting into this kind of problems. The last issue, which is more important, is long bitterness. When I'm carrying a hurt within me for many years, and this is like a cancer inside me, which is absolutely destroying me and actually not permitting me to function. And the funny thing is, these people, if you tell them that, listen, you're not dealing with this anger and so it is harming you and you're not able to function, they'll say, no, I'm okay. They say, I'm able to function. I'm doing well in my studies. I'm not having a problem. They don't realize that they are having a problem. And that problem has to be dealt with. And this is not as easy to deal with on the issues which I discussed just now, because the short-term bursts of anger and irritation, you can identify the source and you can deal with it. But this is more difficult. And so you need to identify, why are you carrying that deep anger and hurt within you? And you need to get rid of it. And what I tell people is just forget the past and build your future happiness. So one of the mottos I have followed in my life, I refuse to live in the past. I refuse to think about the past, and I just forget the past. You learn from the past and then forget about it and focus on building your future happiness. That is the way I look at it. Now, I know that it doesn't work for most people. So if you're not able to deal with it, you need to get counseling. So you need to learn to forgive. I think Lighthouse had done a session on forgiveness. You need to learn to forgive and put it behind you and let it go. Because that is the only way you're going to get happiness and peace in your life. And you're going to be able to function at 100% effectiveness. But if you're going to carry this anger and grudge, like I hate my mother, and so I carry that hatred with me into my working life and things like that, that hatred is going to affect your performance. It's going to affect the way in which you relate with people. So that is where I said, what is the point of me spoiling my whole life? Let me just forgive, forget, and leave the past and look to the future. So this is something which we really need to do. And if you're not able to do it, we really need to go for counseling, which will help you to get through past bitterness and anger which is there within us. So the challenge is not to get or not to act out of anger. It's not a question of not getting angry, but it is a question of not acting when you're angry. Because as I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with anger. Don't think that anger is wrong or a sin or something like that. It's not. But it is how you handle it which makes it right or wrong. So use anger to identify the hidden desires in your heart, which you also may not be aware of. And so then you can deal with those hidden desires so that these desires don't control you, but you control those desires. So when somebody comes first in class and beats you, you can go up and congratulate him without any bitterness because you have dealt with that hidden desire which is there and which is basically coming from your lack of self-esteem and inferiority issues. So you need to gain control over your desires which are triggering these anger so that the anger spells reduce or vanish from your lives. Let the desire to be happy rule you and your life. So I said, I'm not going to let other people make me unhappy. I want to be happy, and I'm going to see that I run my life in such a way that I can be happy and not bitter and angry.